they're going to be, I'm not going to say split up because that's not, the band's breaking up. Yeah, y'all are all going to college. And, yeah. So we're going to have to assemble, praise and good. I got some vibration going on somewhere. Church clap. I don't know what it was. It's either mine or. Oh, hallelujah. That's it. I believe that one is it. So tonight, anybody wonder where Hannah is tonight? Y'all probably already know. No, not Athens. This is a good guess. That was a really good guess. No, she is doing worship, leading worship at a revival tonight at Mount Zion Church of My God.
Oh, yeah. Who's the evangelist? I heard him preaching.
Anthony, no?
Something like that. I think so.
But he is the bomb,
He was
dude.
going down watching a live video.
The Lord is using him. And I asked him, somebody asked him, I didn't ask him. Somebody asked him how long he'd been saved. 7 years.
What?
Dude is preaching like Jensen Franklin up there.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, look, Cassie left her fan up here. Papa John's. Actually works pretty good. So we're going to be in Exodus chapter 14. Yeah, the kiddos tonight, Harmony went to VBS at Boaz. Whoop, whoop. And then y'all came here, so it was a trade, equal trade. Actually, I take that back. I'm sorry. It's my daughter. It's not ever an equal trade. Unless it's my wife. I'm just kidding. But Exodus chapter 14. We're going to begin, and I'm going to try to hurry. I know that my lesson is not actually on fear tonight, but I love that song.
So good.
And it says, what's the part about drowned? You drowned?
Drowned
My
my
fear
fear
in perfect love. So if he drowned your fear in perfect love, what did he drown it in?
The Red Sea.
No, but that is very clever. No, if he drowned it in perfect love, his love, then he drowned it in his blood, because when God looks down at us, he sees the blood. Yes, I never thought of that when he says you drown my fear in perfect love. Perfect love casts out what?
All fear.
Man, this is some good stuff. I need to be writing all this down. I mean, it's already in your Bible if you have one. But Exodus chapter 14. How many knows what happens in Exodus chapter 14? Not the whole book. That was funny. In Exodus chapter 14, I'm moving this, John, sorry. They crossed the Red Sea. Yes, this is like children's story right here for y'all to
I thought
know.
that's where you go when God flies that.
But we're going to amp it up a little bit. I actually brought some objects with me that we're going to use here in a little bit. Hey, let me get these two fellas right here with the big muscles. Come move that table for me. What's a muscle? Yeah, y'all bring it on up here. I didn't really want to put it on stage during worship because everybody would be staring at the mousetrap and the hot dog. So I figured y'all wouldn't want any of that. Oh, we're right here in the PowerPoint too. Praise the Lord. I got this.
Just shine this one. Oh yeah, that's easy.
There we go. This will work. I need that. So, how many knows what this is?
Mousetrap.
Mousetrap. Anybody ever used one? I guarantee you there's somebody in here that hasn't, because I never used one until I was like 20. I'm not kidding. We always used the sticky pads at my house.
Yeah.
And then I actually bought one of these and absolutely killed my finger because I didn't know how to set it up right. And I thought I had it set up, and of course I just let go, and it was like, and then I cried. But how many knows how to set one of these up?
Everybody figured it out? But I don't know.
It's actually really easy. But the thing about this is for the rat to be attracted to this, there has to be what?
Bait.
There has to be bait. And so I'm going to do like a double sermon tonight.
It's gonna be good.
And we're going to hit about how we can be trapped.
Well,
And at the same time, we think in our lives we're in a trap, but really God's just putting us in a test. And a lot of times we want to think it's a trap when really it's just a test.
good.
And can you pass the test? So tonight we're going to look at Exodus 14 and talk a little bit about Moses. So what's some backstory on this? Moses is living for God now. He was a murderer and he ran away and was it Midian for like 40 years. Then he decided he's going to look at this little burning bush, and God tells him, I am, you know, and then he sends him, this is like very fast. Yeah, and then he sends him down there to the Pharaoh or the king, and he tells him all these plagues and about everything. Then they decide they're going to pack it up and what? Get out of town. Yes. Yeah, Exodus. So they pack it up in chapter 14, and they are heading to the Red Sea, and they camp out at the Red Sea, and then they look up and they see what? Egyptians, and they're coming by the what?
Grasshopper load.
Yes, by the grasshopper loads. By the thousands. I think it actually says how many, but we won't worry about that. It was a lot. How many, sometimes in your life, how many of y'all got to a resting point in your life, and that's when the enemy wanted to attack you?
Come on, you're right.
When you decided to take a little break from church, or you decided that you was going to not go on Wednesday night, and you thought, it won't hurt me. And then next thing you know, the enemy is knocking at your door, and they're coming up on you with chariots and torches. Not but spiritually, yes. How many's ever been there before? You decided, we're not going to call it backslide, because that's a little further. But your back just gets a little slippery, you know, and you kind of lean back in your seat a little bit. Hey, y'all are laughing, but I'm trying to preach to somebody tonight. But a rat trap is similar to this story, because if I set this up and there's no bait, then will the mouse be attracted to this mouse trap? I mean, this is a good looking piece of wood. I mean, don't get me wrong. And it's got a pretty little logo on it with a mouse and some cheese. And all this shiny, I don't really think that's copper. But it might be. No, it's not. Whatever this is made out of, but it's probably pretty cheap. But this is not going to attract the mouse. What attracts the mouse? The bait. Does Satan attract you? Like, if I was up here and was just talking about the devil, would that attract you?
No.
No. But does his bait attract you?
Oh, that's good. Oh, come on.
Because you can look at this and say, no, not today. I am not sticking my finger in that. And if I had this set and asked somebody to come up here and stick your finger in it, would you? For free? Not for $1. I mean, it would hurt you, and you would know that this is going to cause me some pain. And so with the same way spiritually, we reach in knowing that it's going to cause us pain. Somebody's like, oh man, he's hitting home. But for us to be attracted to this, spiritually, talking about to be attracted to the things of this world, then there has to be some sort of what? Bait. Bait can be what?
Food.
Food.
I'm sorry, spiritual. I'm sorry, I'm thinking, I'm hungry.
Bait can, I mean, if you want to go that route, I mean, it can be. Yes, it can be a boyfriend, girlfriend. It can be hatred, anger, fear. All these things can bait you in, and once you grab a hold of it, and even the things you know are not good for you, none of it's good for you because it doesn't belong to you in the first place, like we just talked about. So why are you trying to grab a hold of it when you know that it's going to hurt you? But we like to be attracted to bait. That's just how the flesh works. So we have to not walk by the flesh, but walk by the what?
Spirit.
By the Spirit. We have to be led by the Spirit. And we have to walk daily with the Spirit of God, and He will guide us away from the mouse traps in our life. I mean, have some mouse traps in your life. Honestly. Yeah. Sometimes you're walking spiritually and you just step on one and you're like, ooh, shouldn't have done that. That was a bad idea. Yeah. So, Moses is guiding all these people. How many knows that you're an influence? Somebody in here is watching you right now, and you're an influence to somebody else. Could be older, could be younger, but somebody is watching you and they're following by your example. And so they're following Moses, and we're gonna start. Let me see. Let me find my place here. We're going to start with verse 10. And so what's happened is they're following Moses, and they're heading to the Red Sea. They camp out, and everything's going good. But when the enemy starts coming, what do the Israelites do? What do they start to do?
Oh, Lord.
They doubt. Yes. And they start to blame who?
God.
They start to blame God, but they also start to blame who that has been led by God. Moses. And so they think that it is a what? Trap, because there's water and Egyptians. So there's really nowhere to go. We're trapped, and it's all your fault. Anybody ever took the blame for something? Somebody just blamed you, and it wasn't your fault. You were trying to lead them in the right direction, or trying to do a good thing, and it just fell apart. And you were like, well, I didn't see that coming. And Moses is thinking the same thing. He's probably, for a moment, he trusted God. But in the moment, he probably thought, there's a lot of water behind me, and here come the Egyptians. What are we going to do? I've guided all these people here this way, and now we're going to be killed. And so they thought it was a trap. So we're going to begin in verse 10. It says, "And when Pharaoh drew nigh, children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them. And they were sore afraid, and the children of Israel cried out unto the Lord. And they said unto Moses, Because there were no graves in Egypt, hast thou taken us away to die in the wilderness? Wherefore hast thou dealt thus with us to carry us forth out of Egypt?" So they're blaming Moses for bringing them out here to die. Verse 12, "Is not this the word that we did tell thee in Egypt, saying, Let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that we should die in the wilderness." How many knows what a rut is? Being in a rut. The Egyptians they were fine serving the Egyptians because they were in a rut. And so they lived that way their whole life. And finally, when they broke free, they said, you know what, it would have been better to just go back and live the way we were living. Anybody ever had a friend like that? That was living for God, and then they said, you know what, I'm done with this. It's not for me. I'm going to go back and live the way that I want to live. I had a better time serving, the world and the devil than serving God. And that's basically what they're saying. They said, we would rather be slaves than be free. And so they were confused on why Moses had brought them out to the Red Sea. It says, verse 13, "And Moses said unto the people, Fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord." He told them to what? Stand still. So that lets me know that they were probably running around frantically saying, why, they're crying out to the Lord, but they weren't crying out for help. They were crying out more saying, why have you brought us here? What, you brought us here to die. And then they turn to Moses and they tell him the same thing. And now they're running around frantically, and he tells them to what? Stand still. In Psalms it tells us what? Be still and know that I am God. Be still. Sometimes we have to be still in our lives for God to speak to us, begin to move. Sometimes we get so caught up in the situation, we get close to a trap, and really it's just a test. Wow. That's what I want to talk about tonight. because they thought it was a trap. The Israelites thought it was a trap, and really it was just a test. And so God was testing them to see that their faith was going to line up with their walk, and it did not. Sometimes our faith doesn't line up with our walk. We're walking, but we're not walking in faith. We're walking in doubt. We're walking in fear. And we're still walking and doing what God has called us to, but He didn't call us to walk that way. He didn't walk that way. Okay, never mind.
Not a good song.
I know. Aerosmith. So He did not call us to walk with fear. He did not call us to walk with doubt. He called us to walk with purpose, to walk with a calling, to walk without carrying all these things. And so for us to walk with God, we have to have what? Faith. We have to believe that God can bring us through any situation that we're in. Y'all believe that tonight? That God can bring you through any situation that you're in. You might feel like your back's to the Red Sea, and you feel like that you're not going to make it through, that you feel like, well, here comes the Egyptians, I just give up. I'm going to serve them. And sometimes we feel that way. We don't really hear from God, and we cry out to God saying, God, why do you not hear my prayers? Why are you not answering my prayers? Why are you not... the list could go on and on. Y'all are thinking of what you would say to God right now. You're thinking, well, that is me. I've said that before. And you just want to give up, and you want to say, you know what, I throw in the towel. I would rather serve the world and just do the things of the world than live for God. But God is putting you through a test right now. Somebody tonight, you're going through that moment. You are stuck just like the Israelites were. And they're stuck, and they're in bondage. They've finally been set free. And they get to this point where God is leading them, but He's testing their faith. And tonight, your faith is going to be tested. When you leave here, your faith is going to be tested. It's tested every day. But what are you going to do? Are you going to see it as a trap, or are you going to see it as a test that God is putting you through? Because a lot of times we can see it as a trap, and we can turn away from God and never see the promise and the purpose that He had on our lives. How many believes that? That can happen. Because I know it can happen. It's happened to me. When I was 18 years old, I decided I was going to start going back to church. I went for a couple weeks, and I decided this is not for me. It's not for me. I would rather serve the world, and I did that for 2 more years until I ended up behind bars to realize that I was only being put through a test, and I failed. And I saw it as a trap, and I took the bait. And it hurt. It hurt a lot. To know that a whole community knows that my name is the front page of the DUI at 20 years old. Because I didn't see it as a test, I saw it as a trap, and I bailed out. And I bailed out on God. And so I encourage you tonight, don't bail out on God. Stick to His promises. Stick to what His Word says. Get in the Word. Know the Word. Because that's where God's going to speak to you. That's where when you have those doubts, when you have those concerns, and you're asking God, why am I in this spot right now? Just like they were. When you look to the Word of God, you will find the answer, and God will say, stand still. Hold your spot. Hold your ground, and you will see my hand at work. So, we read on, it says, let's go to verse 18. It says, and the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord when I have gotten me honor upon Pharaoh, upon his chariots, and upon his horsemen. And the angel of God, which went before the camp of Israel, removed and went behind them, and the pillar of the cloud went from before their face and stood behind them. So the angel of God moved and got in between them and the Egyptians. And so God was placing a protection upon them because they stood still. And when you stand still, God will begin to show Himself. And that's what happened. The angel of God just moved around and encamped behind them and protected them from the chariots. And that is amazing. That's a miracle in itself. It says, and it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel, and it was a cloud and darkness to them. This is verse 20. But it gave light by night to thee. So even though there was a dark place on one side, there was light for them because they were listening to God. They were standing still. And even in the midst of their darkness, there was what? There was light. Even in the midst of what seemed like a trap, it was only a test. And God promised them that I will show you the way. I will give you light. And He did. So, what we're going to do, real quick, is I want to show you what a mousetrap can do. Is it on a hot dog? Yes, on a hot dog. You know, pray this doesn't go off. Y'all think it can chop it in half?
Yeah.
I've actually not even tried it, so.
Maybe not all the way through, but like.
You don't give
Does
it
anybody want to come to do this? Come on, JJ. You have to do it where everybody can see. Don't stick your face.
Son,
How about that?
$20.
Catch me outside. How about that? That was awesome. See, that was just as much a surprise for me because I hadn't done it yet. I love it. I love it.
Son.
So, how many knows that would hurt?
Yeah?
How many wants that to happen? You
No.
don't think?
No wonder you cried.
Oh! Good catch. Some of y'all didn't even know that. Alright, so how many wants to come up here and stick your finger in this?
Don't do it.
Like you would just get joy and I think I broke it. Okay. How many wants to?
It's not bad.
So I'm going to challenge somebody here in a little bit to come up and stick your finger in this. Think I can do it? Alright, so it says that it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel, and it was a cloud and darkness to them, but it gave light by night to these, so that the one came not near the other all the night. So God is protecting them, and then what happens? They get to the Red Sea, well, they're already there. And they're looking at the Red Sea, and God says to Moses, what?
Go stretch out your rod.
Stretch out your rod. Stretch out your rod, or you could have just said stretch out your faith.
Wow.
Because that's all it took. It wasn't the rod, it was his faith.
Right,
Forgive me.
right.
The rod would never got up in the air if it weren't for his faith.
This is hand over the sea.
So, when he stretched out, man, he's right on. That's what I'm talking about. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land. Made the sea what?
Dry land.
Dry land. It wasn't wet. It was dry for them to walk. And it says, and the waters were what? Divided. How many knows that God can put you through a test and he'll part the waters for you. He will part and you will be able to see clearly what he has for you. And the Egyptians were coming up, they were coming behind them, and he said, you know what? If you'll just stretch out your hand in faith and believe in me and trust me, then I will part the waters. Imagine Moses having to do that. Like, are you serious? Like,
I look at my mind. Really, bro?
I mean, that is an ocean, and you want me to just stretch out my hand and you just going to part the water. Wouldn't that be crazy? And I think in the Bible it actually says that it was actually frozen on the sides, is what I've read. So once it went up, then it hardened on the sides for them to just walk right through. Is that not a miracle? And I can tell you tonight that when you're going through what you see is a trap, what you see it as a trap is actually just a test. And God will put you through a test, and I'm not going to let go of this because it's going to pop you. But you're going through a test, and God will reward you every time because of your faith. But it's not with fear. You're not going to get through it with fear.
No.
If Moses would have raised his hand up in fear, would the waters ever parted? No. So what I'm going to do is ask one person to come up here, and I've got this set. Whoop! That about let go. One person to come up and touch that. Now, do you trust me?
A little bit.
Do you believe that you're going to be okay?
No.
I mean, y'all just saw what happened to the hot dog. I don't know if y'all want a finger like that. Come on, Cassie. She's like, I don't want to hear that. So, this is pulled back all the way. Pulled back all the way. Locked in place.
Watch out.
To touch that.
Don't die.
They all believe that if she touches it, That she's gonna
Okay,
be able
thank
to
you.
pull.
That cast don't die.
I'm gonna put a mousetrap at the altar. That's
Oh!
Whoa!
No.
All right. Got it. All right. All right. So look, this is where the bait goes, and once you push down on that, and see this little thing, it's gonna let go, and then this whole little device here will go, just like that.
Just like what?
Okay. I mean, it's up to you. I'm just gonna stand back. I don't want that. You know.
Boy.
I don't want her finger to come off and I have to catch it. Oh! What happened? Nothing happened.
Because you broke it.
I didn't break it.
There's 3 more over there.
Sit back and show you that it's not broken. I actually took this one. But she, all right, y'all can sit down.
Yay.
So, it was as easy as that for Moses. It was an impossible situation. He thought, yeah, I'm going to get hurt by this. This is not going to be good. I see no way of this actually happening. And just like when she came up here, I think she had pretty good faith and trusted me and believed. And it's the same way. When God asks you to do something, just like I asked Cassidy to do something, how many times do we say no?
Good.
How many times do we look at a test and call it a trap? Because we look at it sometimes when God wants to put us through a test and show His glory through the test, but we never initiate. So God, there's this distance where God says, I have a test for you, and you're going to come out okay. But you've got to put the faith effort first. You've got to put forth the faith and to touch that. Now, if I was to touch that right now, it would pop my finger. So I'm not going to touch it. But I will do this one more time. That's what I expected. Yeah, I know. So, what has happened is this was a trap, and I turned it into a test. And the things that the devil throws at you as a trap, God can turn into just a test and show His glory through the bad, through the ugly. What you think, oh no, it's a trap, I'm out, I'm gone. I'm not sticking my finger there, I'm not touching that, because that's just bait, and if I touch that, it's going to hurt. And yes, if there was cheese there and there was a mouse, what would happen once he triggered that? Yeah, and his head would be gone. I'm so glad that sin doesn't work that way, that we have an advocate with the Father, that the first time we sin, that it's not
There.
and then God's like, you're done.
Huh.
Because none of us would be right here. None of us would be here tonight.
Right.
And it's by the precious blood of Jesus Christ that He shed on Calvary that we can walk up to what seems like a trap and say, you know what? I believe that the Lord's going to guide me through this, that nothing's going to happen to me, and we can go, see there, devil? Nothing happened. And nothing will happen because I trust and believe that my Father will bring me through it. Let's give Him a hand clap of praise tonight. So the trap didn't hurt Cassidy. It was only a test. And she passed. How many times has God given you a test and you turned it away as a trap in your life? I mean, I could talk on that. I want to share one story. And it's not like a sad story. It's actually a pretty funny story. And then I'm going to ask if John or whoever you got lined up to come up here. Have y'all had a song? I would rather have a song, to be honest. If y'all got something lined up. Y'all give me something lined up. So there was this one time when I was in high school that I was dared to do something. You ever been dared to do something? Everybody's like, oh, you just brought up, my mind is running right now of that one time that I did that one thing. So this is not bad. But we were at a friend's house, and I used to actually ride BMX. Like I would do the bicycle thing, and jumps and wreck and say, "Ow, that hurt," and get up and do it again. I don't know what was the point of that, but we used to ride, and my buddy was fixing his tire. He had bent it a little bit, and so he had the bike. Anybody ever had to like fix a chain on the bike, turn it upside down, and you have to do that? That's how he had it set up. And so he had bet me that I wouldn't stick my nose to the tire while it was spinning. And he said, "Look, I'll go first." And he said, "It won't hurt, it won't do a thing." And y'all go ahead and stand tonight. Y'all be spread out. We're gonna finish with this. And so what happened, and you can start that and just kind of, you know what to do. He said thanks. He's the man. So anyways, I was dared to stick my nose, the end of my nose, on a bicycle tire with it spinning full speed. Like one of these, spin it like the Wheel of Fortune, and then just stick my nose to it and let it stay there for like 3 or 4 seconds, and then, And so he was like, "You know what, I'll do it first. I'll show you that it doesn't hurt." So I was watching him, but I wasn't paying attention. My mind wasn't focused on what he was doing. So when he stuck his nose to the tire, he wasn't even touching the tire. And so he made the sound, like barely touched it, and then let off, and it was like, the little sound it makes. I can't do that. But he fooled me into thinking that it wasn't going to hurt me. And he fooled me into thinking that it was going to be all right. And so when I got up there, I thought, you know what? This ain't going to be bad. He ain't got a mark on his nose. And so he spins it, and I was like, you know what? I'll do this. And this is like the old school version of, what's that game that y'all play? What are the odds? There was no numbers. It was like, you just do it or you don't. It was like, sure, I'll do it. That was the day. So I spin it, or he spun it for me, and I lean down and I just stick my nose to that tire. And it spinning so fast that it did not stop immediately. Like it was still spinning. And I remember raising up and thinking, well, that wasn't that bad. And there was like a bumper, there was like a truck parked to the side over there, and I look in the bumper, and all I see is red. And it had skinned the skin off of my nose, and I looked like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And they were laughing and cutting up and having a good time. And surprisingly, because y'all are teenagers, I can say this, there was no alcohol involved. Because when I was 18 to 20 is when, if you'd have asked me to do that then, I definitely would have probably done it, because I would not have been in my right mind. But I was in my right mind. There was nothing affecting me besides that he deceived me and tricked me into thinking that it wasn't going to hurt me. And then when I stuck my nose to it, I felt it. You ever had a carpet burn? It was like that times 1,000 on my nose. And so I had a scab come up on my nose, had to go to school, and I had this awesome story to tell everybody. And everybody laughed at me. Everybody made fun of me. And I thought, man, I'm an idiot. Why did I do that? And so I tell you tonight that the devil has come to deceive you. That the devil has come to tell you that that's not going to hurt you, Josh. You can go out on a Saturday night and still come to church on a Sunday. You can go out and do whatever you want and have fun. And when you come back on Sunday, it ain't gonna show it. Nobody will be able to tell. It's not gonna hurt you. And he will even say, look, watch. Go out one weekend and watch what happens. You'll go out that first weekend, nothing happens. Nobody knows. And he deceives you into thinking that it's not gonna hurt you. But once you stick your nose officially into the business of Satan, into the business of this world, into the darkness of this world, it will affect you every time. And don't think that you can hide it. Don't think that, well, maybe I can put some makeup on this. I thought that. I thought, maybe I just put a little makeup on this. No, everybody knew. And it wasn't one of those like small scabs. It was like scab on top of scab. I mean, it was bad. And I come to tell you tonight that the devil wants to do the same thing to you spiritually. That he wants to tell you that everything's okay, that whatever you're going through, you can do this and it will not hurt you. You can go and do this. You can carry this weight that you have, and it's not going to affect you. If you're carrying weight, it's going to make you stronger. No, it's a lie from the devil. Jesus has died on the cross for us to be free, to not carry weight, to not carry a burden, and to not be dabbling in sin. That we should live free, that we shouldn't be seeing the trap and taking it as a trap. We should see it as a test and put a stop to it right then and say, you know what, devil, you're not going to have no place in my life. There's not going to be any mark of where you have left your mark on my life. I am a child of God, that when God sees me, all he sees is the blood of Christ over my life. How many wants that tonight? How many believes that God can change you radically tonight? And I don't care if you're saved. You're all dealing with something tonight. You're as close to God as you want to be. I heard somebody say that one time, and that convicted me. You're as close to God as you want to be. If you wanted to get closer, you would get closer. So what are you going to do to get closer tonight? What are you going to do to get closer to that Red Sea? And say, God, I know that I see it as a trap, but I know it's just a test that you're going to put me through and bring me through. How many believes that tonight? Let's lift our hands. Let's begin to worship. And I don't know if Seth wants to start this over, but let's just lift up the name of Jesus. And if you want prayer, you can come right down here to the middle and we'll pray with you tonight. But I believe that there's some people in here that are like Moses, that's going to lift up that hand of